Hey everybody, coming at you live from out in the shop. A couple of years ago, I did some Q&A videos, question and answer videos, and the reason that is because every once in a while I have to do a short series of videos on that because I get asked so many questions and talk to other people in messages about so many things that it's just impossible to explain. That it's easier just to show and put it on videos. Okay, and uh, what it is, the subject, it keeps coming up repeatedly over sharpening machetes and sharpening knives, and I've put off making a video because I thought to myself that there's so many videos covering that subject out there of people sharpening, and I do sharpening a lot differently from others. And so like I say, what I do works for me. It's my opinion, and I'm sure that when I show some of my sharpening techniques, there'll be some people that's going to be arguing and they're going to be like, oh, I don't do it that way. But what I show you is what works for me. Okay, so I'm going to cover sharpening, and there's been a lot of things asked about machetes and knives and folding saws and pouches and caring for machetes and storage of machetes. So I'm going to try, I don't know, I haven't wrote down anything. I've got it all in my head, and I've got everything laid out that I'm going to show. And on my Q&A videos, if you didn't see the last ones, it's not like a normal Q&A video. It's not like I have every question I was ever asked wrote down and I look at it and I'm like, so-and-so says, now, I don't waste time on that. What I do is I just ramble on and I show stuff that will eventually cover what gets asked. So let's start digging through these blades here, and so that I can talk and talk and talk. I'll start out by saying that there's a huge difference for me in sharpening a knife and sharpening a machete. Okay, a machete is a heavy chopping tool. Okay, so there's a huge difference in chopping and a huge difference in cutting and slicing. Okay, knives don't do chopping. So the knives, you want to spend extra time with them to get them a really nice, polished, finished edge. Okay, no matter what the effort. Okay, and you want to maintain that edge by all means. When you have a machete, it is a chopping tool. Yes, you can carve and slice and things like that with it, but for the most part, it's a chopping tool. So you don't really have to spend as much time and effort on it. And so that's why usually with these, a lot of my machetes, I will just use a stone on them and not a strop. But the knives, I will use a strop and ceramic and other things, and I'll get into that. So what we're going to start out with is basic sharpening of the machete. And when I get done showing all of the sharpening, I'm going to talk a few other things about machete shape and cutting size and geometry of the grind of the cut and the cutting edge and the different ways that I sharpen mine depending on the machete and depending on the shape of it. Now, stone storage. The way I store my stones, I store them in oil. What you want to do is, for me, what I use is these containers that gutter screws come in. They seem to work pretty good because they open up and they'll hold the stone in oil. And where I keep my stones in here, I keep them floating in oil, a very light oil, thin oil, like 10 weight, 20 weight. Spindle oil is good. Some people use kerosene. The best oil that I have found for stones is cylinder honing oil, and especially the non-gumming kind, because it keeps your stones from getting all clogged up. And this is just a basic general stone that I use. This is a carborundum stone. It's got two sides, a fine and a coarse side. In general, I'll use the coarse side for an axe, and I use the fine side for my machetes. And these things, there's 3 different ways of using these stones. And I'm going to show you some of my ways of doing it. Let's get this thing out. Let me get this one out right here. One of the ways is you can put it in a vise with some wood, and you can mount it in that way so that you can do your sharpening. And another good thing that you can do, and I use this for my smaller stones, is those mats that you get to put in the drawer of your toolbox. These are great because they're non-slip. And another thing about these things being non-slip is that when you put a stone on there, you can actually put pressure on the blade pushing down on the stone, and if you've got it off a little bit, you can still make good contact with your blade. But that is not how I do it. The way I do it is, let's see where that board goes. What I found easy is I took a 2x4 and I chiseled out a pocket to fit my stone. And what I do is I just simply C-clamp it to the table. That way you got, the way that I sharpen blades, the way that I sharpen them, the way that I sharpen them, it makes it a lot easier to flip the blade over and do both sides of it. Now, like I said, this is my opinion on how I sharpen blades. So what you do now is you take the stone, let's get this out. I'm going to wipe a little bit of the excessive oil off here with my finger. And then I'll show you how to take care of that if the oil goes away. You want to leave your stones soaking in oil. Alright. There, now that should be good right there. Okay, now I'm going to show you something on paper first before I actually do this. With a knife or a machete or whatever, if it's relatively straight, some people tend to push. Now this is where there's going to be a huge argument here. Some people will push their edge because they claim that it doesn't leave a burr. And I'm going to try to explain something in a minute. Because what I do is I drag mine away from the blade. Just like this. Okay? Now I'm going to explain why I do it that way. The reason that I do things the way I do is that when you have a knife like this, and you're dragging, when you push it towards on the stone and you push it this way, what you're doing is you're rolling metal back and forth on either side, and you're not getting a super sharp edge because you're also not creating that burr. If you drag it this way, what you're going to do is, let's say this is the end of your blade, as you're dragging back and forth, you're going to create a little burr right here. And as you drag it across this way, the burr's going to go this way, and drag this way, the burr's going to go that way. So what you're doing is you're creating a little burr, and you're just flopping it back and forth. Now if you push like this, you're going to get an edge like this, and there's going to be no burr forming on the end. So this might be okay for a machete, because you're not going to get a super razor edge, you're going to get a sharp edge, or at least I don't. The only way that I get a razor sharp edge is to do it my way, and you have that little burr, and you'll strop that burr off on leather. If you don't ever create the burr, then it won't have a razor sharp edge. Now, like I said, this is going to cause a huge argument. I mean, this is going to cause major arguments because there's knife makers and people that sharpen knives that just don't believe in that at all. But I mean, that's what I do basically. So I'm going to show you how I hit the old stone on this right here real quick. But I may or may not strop this. But if I do, I won't spend a whole lot of effort on it because this is a chopping tool to me. Of course, with a knife this size, this could be considered a knife or a machete, so it all depends on how you use it. For me, I don't go the extra effort to strop many of my machetes, but I'll get into that with certain machetes. We're back over at the stone, and I don't know if the camera's picking it up or not, but the oil has actually kind of gone away on this. I can still put my finger on it and feel the oil, but what I do is I keep one of these little spongy type brushes here, and I'll keep a little bit of oil on it like that right there instead of pouring it on. That sponge seems to put the right amount on. And before I get started, a lot of times I'll put some on the edge. Now, a lot of people will take this thing and they will sharpen, sharpen, sharpen. Okay? And then they'll come over here and they'll sharpen over here. Well, if you're doing that, you're putting too much of a burr over on one side. So what I usually do is I will sharpen, I hold it up, I eyeball at what angle that I have, and as I'm pulling back towards me, I'm also pulling straight across and then rolling over. Now it takes a little bit of getting used to be able to do that. But I'll do it that way, and that way. Okay? One side, one grind on each side. I'm constantly flopping back and forth. Like I said, a lot of people, they will do like 10 strokes in this direction and then 10 strokes in this direction. I don't do that. I do it one at a time. And you're going to learn to eyeball this angle right here, how you're going to hold it at an angle to preserve your cutting edge. Okay? Say a couple of strokes. As far as I'm concerned, that's ready to go. I'm not even going to strop it. If I had to use, if I was going to use this for outright cutting or slicing, then I may put it on the leather strop. But this thing right here, I use this for chopping. That's what I use my machetes for. I have knives for my slicing. So I don't even bother stropping it. You can if you want to, but in general, I don't. So now let's move on to the next subject. Grinding on machetes and talking about stropping on machetes, and this brings up knife maintenance. Okay, now you have to maintain your edges. Nobody likes a dull blade. So let's take a look right here at these blades. I don't work for Ontario Knife Company, and I'm not paid by them, and I don't get free stuff. I know there's some people that gets free stuff and they show it and they claim they're reviewing it and it's brand new out of the box. I don't do that. I use my stuff. Okay. Anybody that's watched my videos knows that I'm very partial to Ontario Knife Company. I have my RTAC 2 here, and I have my SP53, which is my favorite machete. Now, not bad mouthing K-bar, because I have 3 or 4 K-bars, and I do love them. But my K-bars, to me, whenever they chip, that's when you put them on the stone. Okay. I don't know what kind of steel or what kind of heat treating makes the difference. I know this is 5156, and I can't remember what this is, but neither of these Ontarios have ever chipped. And I mean, they have been through some serious abuse and chopping. And so I've maintained the factory edge that's on here. All I've ever done is polished these things. So, and I'm going to show you the way I do that. And what I do is I use a thing called a Kratex stick. These are not really well used in the knife world, bushcraft survival world, but it's a flexible, it's a rubberized stick, and it's got, I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's got grit embedded in it right there. I think I'm hitting it right there. Can you see it, how it's sparkling? It's almost like a man-made diamond like dust, but these things work incredible. And one of the ways of how I use this is you can lay down this, the mat I was telling you about, and you can lay this down. This is one of the methods. And you can take this. This keeps it from sliding around on the bench too. And you do that, and this doesn't take any kind of oil. You do it dry. And after every time I use these, let's see. That's kind of slipping around a little bit, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to, let me put a weight on it. Hold on a minute. Wait a minute, here's something. Hey, here's something right here. I'll put a paint can on the end of it. How about that? Now, the way I do it is I maintain these edges after each trip, and I'll come back and I will do this. And the thing about this is this keeps my edge very extremely sharp. As long as this blade doesn't get chipped, then there's no big deal about, I mean, why put it on the stone? When you put your blade on the stone, that just simply means that you're wearing the steel away. But if it doesn't get chipped, then there's no reason to do that. Okay? Now I'm going to show you the method that I use for out in the field, because somebody had asked me about how I sharpen the SP53 because it's got this curve in this part. I will show you how these types of blades are done with a stone here in just a minute, but I'll show you in the field how I do this one in the field. In the field, the way I sharpen mine is I have a Kratex stick. You may remember this is the one that it got old and quit being flexible and it broke. Well, I glue them to a piece of wood, and on the other side I have a piece of leather for stropping. This does the polishing and this does the stropping. Okay. Now the way I do this when I'm out in the field is I'll sit down and I will, instead of this being flat, I will hold it up at a slight angle. Okay. I'm used to holding it up to between 20 and 30 degrees. You can see how you just get used to where you hold it. And it's easy to flop it over this way and this way. And I'm going to take the stone and I'm going to go straight. I'm going to go parallel with my leg. And that's how I maintain the same angle on here. And what I do is I hold it here, and then I come across with it, and then I flip it over. And that's exactly how I'll do it. Once on each side. And ever since I've had this thing, I've had this blade for about, I don't know, 3-4 years maybe. And I have never put this blade on a stone because there's been no reason for it. This blade has not chipped any. It is super sharp. And I maintain it. The more I use it, the sharper it gets. And actually the majority of the chopping is done right here. I don't even use it up in here much. But if you're going to do carving with it, you can do some extra stropping right here. I have the leather on the back of it, but there's no reason to use the leather. Not unless I wanted to spend extra time. If I was going to use this for carving, what I would do is I would spend extra time on this surface here, and then I would take the strop and I would strop it back and forth. Probably for every 10 times I'd use this, like if I did 10 strokes with this, I'd have to do about 100 strokes right here with this. Alright. Now I'm going to show you something else that's going to freak people out and probably make a lot of people mad. One question I was asked a lot about is about sharpening these curved machetes. Evidently there's people that they have problems with sharpening these curved type machetes, the kind that, this isn't a kukri, but these in general are considered to be kukri shaped because they have a curve this way and a curve this way. And this is really radical right here. This is the K-bar kukri right here. That's been a really good blade. But there's a way of breaking in a stone on these, and it's probably going to freak some people out when I do it. But I'll show you what works for me. Like I said, this whole video is pretty much in my opinions on what works for me. And this does work for me, but some of the things that work for me only work because of the way that I maintain blades and the way I care for them and the way I use them. Okay, so let's take this, and what I do is I take a stone and I mount it between wood on a vise, and I'm going to mount this to the table. Now, like I said, this is really going to freak some people out when I do it, and they're really going to argue, but once you've done this to a stone, you won't never have to do it again. I think I'm going to bring the camera down a little bit and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. Okay, you've got your stone in a vise. The idea behind this is that when you have these curves like this, when you drag it across it, there's a chance that the edges of this stone is going to screw this up and make it very uneven. So I can understand people having a concern with that. Now, the less of a curvature, the harder it is to put some screwed up looking edges in it, but you can still do it. When you get out here on the belly of the beast, it's not that big of a deal, but it is here. So, put your stone and take a coarse file. What you want to do is put a radius on it. Okay. A lot of people think that this is ruining the stone, and it may very well ruin the file. But the thing is once this is done, it's done and you've got something to use. And if you own a bunch of kukris, if you're a big kukri person, then do this. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put some oil on these edges here. And say, I'll keep this stone. I had another stone that was almost wore completely out. And what I'll do with this one is I'll put this in that other gutter screw box. Put a little oil on here. See, this has got a couple of chips in it. I love K-bar, but I don't know what the deal is. These blades have chipped. This thing should have been soaking right here. Now, the more you sharpen your machetes, the more this stone is going to break in. But that's simply how you do it. Now, I'm just going to do a couple of strokes here, and then I'm going to stop. I'm not going to do it anymore because since this stone has been dressed with those radiuses, I'm now going to put it upside down in that other container with the oil. And once this thing is soaked in all the oil, then I'll finish sharpening this. Okay, so, but I just wanted to show you how to prepare that. So, that's how you do that part. A long time, I was see if I can put that where I can see it. For a long time, I was a kukri only kind of guy. And then I bought my first parang. And when I used to always hear that whenever they was saying that a parang is similar to an axe, it's the one machete that's closest to an axe. They're very much right about it. I mean, they're very heavy choppers. They're wonderful choppers. And the thing about this is if you maintain, it takes a different kind of grinding technique to maintain that edge. Now, a normal machete, most normal average machetes that you buy, they have, they're an angle grind. And there's a lot of them like this one that has a primary and a secondary bevel. And what it is that is flat. And the way you maintain those is when you're doing your grinding, polishing, and stoning and stropping, is you're going to take the stone and you're going to come straight across it because that's what's on it, straight. Now, a parang has a convex grind, which this is slightly rounded this way. So it's almost impossible to maintain that. Because if you take a convex grind parang, and if you take it and if you drag it across a stone or strop or a polishing stone or whatever, you're going to wind up putting a flat bevel on it. And if you want to maintain it, then if you want to maintain your convex grind, then there's a different way of sharpening it. And I'm going to show you how I maintain mine. The way I sharpen this is it's going to kind of cover some of the questions that have been asked in the past about people saying that I bought a parang, okay, and I took it out of the box and I chopped with it, and it chopped incredible. It chopped like an axe. Then as time went on, as they sharpened it, it seemed to chop differently. It didn't chop the same. And the reason is because when they sharpened it, they were putting the bevel on it. So now, this is the easiest way that I know of to maintain that. I take some fine grit sandpaper, or what they call emery cloth, and a piece of wood. All right. You can glue it to it if you want to. What I usually do is I'll staple it. Okay. Put a couple of staples here in this end. So I'm gonna make it a little bit shorter. Alright. Let's fold this over. I'm using 320 grit because a parang is a chopping tool. I'm not real concerned about making it just razor sharp. Alright. You now have a piece of wood with some sandpaper stapled to it. Alright, no big deal. Now the next thing that you do, on your workbench, I'll put a 2x4. I am not real concerned about this up here at all. If I have to, I'll polish and strop this if I plan on using this part here for carving and feather sticks. But honestly, everywhere I go, I carry a knife and a machete. So for me, I'm not real concerned about this section. But for those of you that are, you can polish and strop this section. So since I'm not concerned with that section, that is where I will put my clamp. Alright, now what I'm doing is I got this thing clamped down flat. So what I'm doing now is I'm putting a curved motion to this thing. What am I doing here? Okay, that's moving. Alright, what I'm doing is I'm going to put a curved motion to it. Now if you'll see, I'm not going straight. It may look like it, but I'm actually doing a curved motion to it. Alright, now I'll flip it over and show you another view of when I do the other side. Let's put this right here like this. See, once I feel like I've got it sharp enough, then I can take my leather on the back side of my wood Now when you're doing the stropping with the leather, if you want to, you can do as much as you want to on one side. See, that feels good. And it doesn't have to be slicing sharp. All it has to be is sharp enough for chopping. Alright, good and sharp and ready to go. Alright, I think I've just about covered everything that there is to cover on Machetes. I think. I'm sure during editing there's something I forgot. But one other thing I'll say. For those of you that carry the old traditional Machetes, like the traditional Ontario style, military style Machetes, one of the things that you can do for sharpening it is, I talk a lot about multi-use items. Well, what you can carry is a little piece of a file. Sometimes you can, that's good enough to sharpen just a plain generic machete. And the other cool thing about this is if you happen to need a backup for fire, you can use this file with flint and steel to get your spark. Okay. I'm trying to think, and I believe that's basically all I need to say about Machetes. Except for one thing that I'm going to add while I'm standing right here is my K-bar grass machete. All the other machetes are for heavy chopping, firewood processing, shelter building. This one machete here is for vines, grass, and vegetation. So this is the only machete that I actually strop to a razor sharp point, because this machete never touches wood. And this machete has got kind of a bad rap in the past because people were using it for heavy wood processing. And this thing has got what's called a duplex grind, which makes it very delicate. You can see it's got like two bevels up here, and then the the beveled grind on it. But that's called a duplex grind. And you know, it's not for heavy duty chopping. It's for um, vines, grass, and vegetation. All right, now moving right along to knife sharpening. Okay, a couple of different things I want to cover on that. Now, as far as knives go, I believe that everybody that knows me knows that I am a Mora kind of guy. I love Mora knives. They're my favorite, number one favorite without a doubt. My second favorite is Condor knives. My favorite is the Condor Woodlaw and the Condor Bush Lower. These are two more knives that I have never taken to a stone, and I'll show you what I do with them. Saying with earlier with machetes, a machete to me is a chopping tool. You just need a sharp edge. With your bushcraft knives, if you're going to be making feather sticks and doing fine carving, you need an absolute shiny, polished edge, just as shiny and polished as possible. Now, I have wanted to preserve the Scandi grind on these two, so I have never taken them to a stone. Okay, this Mora here, and I've managed to preserve the Scandi grind on this. This Mora, I have used it so much that I have taken it to a stone a couple of times. Okay, so I'm going to show you what I do in that case. Now, I don't use this generic gray stone that I use for my machetes and my axe. What I use is I use an India stone, a medium India stone. I have a few other stones in here, but the majority of the time this is the one that I use the most. Okay. See if you can see that. Let me wipe my finger off. That is a medium India stone made by Norton. Now, I know a lot of people use Japanese water stones, and a lot of people use all these other different kind of stones, but for me, pretty much my knives, this is what I use. Okay, and the way I use it is I put it on. I'll dry the bottom a little bit, and then I leave me a nice coat of oil up on the top. Now, I'm going to move you down here because I'm going to explain something about how I preserve the Scandi grind on this. Okay, I've got the India stone, and I've got it on this mat that I use for, it's a toolbox lining mat. I'll say this, that if you take a stone like this and you put it on the table, if you put your knife on it and you're off a little bit, everything is solid. And that's the beauty of having it on a mat like this. Get it back in the camera shot. Because if you're off just a little bit with this thing, it'll give just a little bit, which is good. Okay. Now, if you'll see, the way to preserve the Scandi grind is if you've got it laid flat, when you rock it up, you can feel it just touching. And that's the feel that you have to get. Is you lay it flat and then you lift it up. And you can feel it. The Scandi grind has got such a surface that you can feel it rock up flat. And so that's what I always try to do. I try to do that as long as I can, because there's no reason to needlessly just drag across a stone and wear your blade out for no reason. So what I'll do is I'll rock it until it gets flat, and then I come to me and across, and then I start curving as I get towards the curve of the blade. So the way I do it is just like this. And I will do that repeatedly, just like that. Okay. Now this is whenever one is dull and I have to put it on the stone. I use a medium India stone. Okay. I have a round stone, and I'll show you about it in just a minute. So now let's move on to the stropping part. Before I move to the stropping part, this is one of the things that I was talking about. Is I'll just lay something heavy right there, a piece of steel, so that I will keep from dragging that back towards me. See, it's just a nice slow motion like that. Like I say, there's a lot of people that they'll push a knife forward, but I don't do that. Nice controlled strokes, that way you can preserve your scandy grind. Already good and sharp. Another thing too is you can take your fingernail and you can feel which side you've got that little burr that you're producing. For the actual stropping part for knives, what I use is a piece of leather. Okay. Now a lot of people out there, they say that you should use for your stropping. There was a big argument about people saying that I've heard people saying that you should use oil or you should use it dry. Okay. And some people will do that. Some people will actually strop with it dry. Well, if I want to strop with it dry, I use the other side. Now, if like for example, with the Mora that I had just put on the stone, what I will do with it is I will just take and I'll put pressure on it, and that will remove the burr. And I will do it over here, dry. I don't put oil on my leather, so that's already made a huge difference right there. And you can also feel when you push your fingers across it, I got more of a burr on the top. So if that's the case, I'll strop more on this side. And that, you can do that. See, that's going to take a lot of stropping. Now it takes less pressure out here if you put oil on here, but I don't. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Now let's move on to this. Whenever I have never taken either of these knives. I have several knives that I have never taken to a stone. The only thing I've ever done is strop them, because I don't damage them, I don't abuse them. All I cut with them is wood. So in that case, I either use semi-chrome polish or this stuff here. I think it's called Weanol, all-purpose metal polish. So what I will do with it is I take a little bit on my finger and I'll smear a little bit on here. Okay. And what I can do right here is I put a few dabs on. Put a few dabs on here. A few dabs on here. And then I'll kind of mush it around on the blade. And I pull my finger away from the cutting edge. Alright. And then I use the same procedure that what I was talking about. The way I put it on here and I get the feel of it and I rock it. And see, this metal polish has a fine abrasive to it. So it's not like I'm just using the leather. I'm preserving the edge. Because see, another thing too is when you take a knife to a stone, you're creating a whole bunch of rough surface that you're going to have to do away with. So the way I figure is if you'll maintain your knife regularly, like every time you get done with it, or when you come back from a trip, go ahead and strop it a little bit. When you get done with it there, just wipe the polish off. That also makes a pretty good protectant too for knife storage. I figure while I got the strop out, I'll go ahead and do another one. Lay it down, put a little pressure on it, pull. And it's kind of relaxing too. On those rough days where you can't get out and you can't go camping, you can sharpen your blades. Well, you can experiment for yourself, like whenever you're doing a feather stick. That's one of the main purposes of a super sharp bushcraft knife. And it's like, take one of your older knives that's dull maybe. I think this Mora hasn't been sharpened in a long time. And I'm gonna try to get the feel right here for her. Actually, it's doing pretty good feathers. I'm gonna get the feel of that. Now let's try this in up here that I stropped, my woodlaw. Yeah, it feels. So I think the angle of the Scandi is a little bit different on the two of them. Once you get the feel for it, you can tell that you can tell how much better that is with a good sharp edge on it. And see, it didn't take much because I maintain it regularly. I maintain that edge. Thing that I want to mention is the fact that this is like a 6-inch long stone. It's a 6-inch by 1-inch by 1/4 inch. Well, this is the Cratex, but I mean that's like average for a stone size. Someone had mentioned one time that they said that they couldn't afford any of those great big gigantic Japanese water stones, that you have to have great big giant stones to do machetes. That's not necessarily true. Yes, they will do a better job, but you can do it with a small stone. This is my grass machete. It's I'm not sure how long it is. It's over 12 inches though. But what you got to do is, as you're pulling towards you, you pull away from you a lot faster than normal. Just like that. And it's kind of hard when you're jumping from blade to blade to be able to get the feel for doing this. Like jumping from doing a Mora to doing a machete, there's a huge difference in it. So just learn to practice with it. You know, like I say, you know, you get off work, you're tired, you don't really want to do anything else. You just, you know, break out your stones and your polishing stuff and polish up the old machetes. Nobody likes a dull machete. This part of my video, the final part of my sharpening is going to cover the knives that I use for food processing. The knives that I carry, my stainless steel knives that I carry, I do not use any kind of abrasives on them, and I do not use these Cratex sticks on them. The only thing that I ever use on them is a ceramic block. That is the only thing that I use on these. And these are a little bit trickier to sharpen because they have a very minor, there's a primary and a secondary grind, and the primary grind is just very minor. And I don't let these get into bad shape. So all I use on them is a ceramic cone. And I've heard people say that you should use oil on these, and that may or may not work good. But what few times I've tried oil, it's actually clogged up the stone. But that's how I maintain them. I keep that clean. If you was going to use oil on a ceramic stone for a food prep knife, I would suggest that you use some kind of a like a canola oil, some kind of an edible oil. I think that's about it on the sharpening. All right, that does it for the sharpening part of it. And so if that's all you wanted to see, that's over. The rest of the video is just going to be some odds and ends that I've talked about in messages and comments and things I've heard and things that's been said. So what I have down here now on the table is the machete that I made. Somebody had asked how come I never show it anymore. Well, I don't know. I just don't use it much because it's a beast of a machete. It's a monstrous machete. But yeah, I still have it. It's 1/4 inch thick. It's a beast. The handle is Delrin. It's a huge handle. But yeah, I still have it. There it is. Still got the same sheath with the leg straps like I did before, and it's got the buckle where you can undo it to put it on your belt, and a zipper pouch. And then underneath here, underneath this pouch, I have a diamond sharpening pad. That way you can you strap it to your leg. There's you over here. You can take these leg straps and you can just strap it to your leg, and then you can sharpen it while you're out on the field. So that's that. All right, let's move on to other things. Now this part may or may not come to some use for you. I guess if you're shopping for a K-bar knife, it may help you decide. But this was discussed one time. I don't know if it was a discussion or an argument. I can't remember. They were talking about the K-bar fighting knife and the K-bar Night Ranger. Okay, that somebody was saying that they're the same knife, it's just a different color. Okay, now ignore these serrations because you can get serrations on either one, it doesn't matter. But this is the K-bar Night Ranger. It's got a foliage green handle. This is the K-bar fighting knife. It has a black handle. And as you can see, pretty much for the most part, it's basically the same knife. But the major difference is the unground portion up at the top. See, on the Night Ranger, you can drag your hand on the back. It's still just a black blade. It's unground. But on the fighting knife, the back side is ground up here, and it is razor sharp. Very, very sharp. Let's see if I can get that in the distance. I don't know. I don't know if you can see that or not. Yeah, I think you can right there. You can tell how one's ground and one's black. But as far as I know, that's the only difference in it. And like I say, the serrations, you can ignore them. They're you know, you can get them with or without serrations. But anyway, that covers that. A friend of mine was recently talking about attaching a folding saw to a machete. This was the very first saw that I ever attached to a machete sheath, and it's pretty easy to do. You can either sew it on, or you can hot glue it, or you can velcro it. You know, there's many different ways of doing it. This is a SOG saw. This is a quite an old saw. I don't even know if they make it blade style anymore. But one of the ways of doing that is, let's say for example that you order one of the newer ones, the newer saws like a Silky or a Baco Laplander doesn't come with a sheath. These SOG saws, they do come with a sheath. Alright? So what I did is I measured the sheath that comes with the SOG, and I've made one of my own. Now this is the new Charade kukri. Okay? I know a lot of you have seen this, and I've never been a big Charade fan in the past, but I saw this blade and I really like the shape of it. It's a kukri style. I bought it and I like it. It's a good blade. I'm still without a shadow of a doubt My top three are Ontario, Condor, and K-Bar. But I like this. It's a pretty nice blade. Now this thing, the thing with this one is, this comes with a very cool pouch. And I think it's got like, it had a diamond, yeah, this still in there because I never use this. It comes with a diamond sharpener and it comes with a ferro rod. And the way this thing goes on is it's got a Velcro strap around it. And on top of that, underneath it, well, yeah, it's got Velcro underneath it too. I was beginning to wonder if I had put that on or if the factory put that on. But anyway, what you can do in a case like this is you can remove this and get you some Cordura and just simply make a bigger pouch. This is a very sloppily made pouch, but it's made the same way because it has a patch of Velcro on it and it has a strap on the bottom just like the pouch. And the sheath, you don't have to do anything to the sheath. See, that's the beauty of it. So you just take your saw, close it up, open these things up, and then all you got to do is just attach it to it. That is one of the examples of this thing that's great. Now I added a leg strap to this thing. So the way you want to do that, if you have this exact machete and you want to do this, is you remove the leg strap because you've already got a loop sewn on here, and what you want to do is you want to run this under and then run this under. Let's see. Alright, and that's what you do. You attach it underneath this loop. And then you've got it attached here. And see, then you've got a saw with your machete. Now, usually I will carry, and then of course this is the leg strap that I have made up. You just take and you can just slide it back under it. And see, now you've got a strap that you can put around your leg to keep it from flopping around all over the place. Some people use paracord on these leg straps, and I don't like that because it hangs down. So I've started making these. They're a little more comfortable. And whenever, a lot of my machetes have a knife attached to them, but some of the times whenever I know that I'm going to be doing some radical shelter building, then what I'll do is I'll carry a folding saw with me. And I had a neck knife here a minute ago. Yeah, there it is. And so if I'm not going to carry a machete with a knife, then that's the time for me to wear a neck knife. Because somebody had asked one time, they said, you don't wear a neck knife very often. Have you got something against them? No, I have nothing against neck knives. It's just whenever you've got a machete that's got your favorite knife attached to it, then you don't need a neck knife. The times that I wear one is, yes, that's when I have a folding saw with me. Okay, so I want to go over a couple of more folding saws. One other thing right here. Let me see. Where did it go? Here's another one. This is my SE Hungalas. I know it kind of looks like Jungalas, but the Hungalas, it comes in a Kydex and a Cordura sheath. I made a pouch for it too. I can throw a silky saw in there if I have to. So, which is kind of cool. And that is a complete shelter kit. Talking a little bit about saws, this is a little jewel that not many bushcrafters have used. A lot of people don't like SOG. They think it's kind of a cheap company, but I haven't had a problem with their products. They're okay, I don't like the SOG forward machetes, but as far as things like this is the SOG revolver. I think this is so handy to the bushcrafter because what it is it's a knife. Turn it towards you where you can see it. It's a knife, and then with the mash of a button, it is a Japanese pruning saw. And this thing cuts incredible for its size. The way the teeth are ground, that is ground like a Japanese pruning saw, so it'll cut in either direction. And the teeth don't clog up. But that thing is it's an absolute jewel. I love it. And the reason why they call it a revolver is because it revolves from knife to saw. Isn't that cool? Very, very handy. Sog revolver. Love it. I had this one for years. Now, moving on, let's talk about some more things about saws. If you have a choice of saws, that's great. This is the Baco Laplander. It's pretty much you buy it, and that's the blade that you get with it. You don't have much of a choice of teeth. So, and this saw is dang near unbreakable. So this is pretty much what you would call a survival type saw. Baco Laplander. This is a Yeoman saw. A friend of mine sent it to me from the UK. He got it off of UK. eBay UK, I think. This is a very, very good saw. It's got some very aggressive teeth to it. For my friends across the pond, if you haven't bought this saw, give it a try. I've tried it and I loved it. Now, these saws here, where'd the other one go? Here it is. Now, the reason I said these are more like the Silky Gone Boy. Okay, these two saws here are more like what I would call a bushcraft saw. This is more like what I consider a survival saw, because this saw here, the blade, you can't hardly break it. You don't have no choice of the teeth. You get it, you carry it, and you use it. Now, if you're a bushcrafter, you're not worried about surviving, you can buy a Gone Boy, and you have your choice of fine tooth, medium tooth, large tooth, and I think extra large tooth. And I've been asked a lot about this. And these things are precision ground and made in Japan, and these blades can and will break if you don't use them right. And that's the reason why I call this a bushcraft saw instead of a survival saw. Now, if you'll see, the one up on the top is the medium tooth, and the one on the bottom is the large tooth. And I've been asked 1,000 times whenever I've been bragging about these Silky Gone Boys, which teeth do I need? Well, simply put, the coarse tooth is for firewood processing, okay, cutting the bigger logs. The medium and the fine tooth is for shelter building and wood crafting and making tools. That's pretty much it. I got both of them. Let's move on to something else. This jewel here, this is the Silky Pocket Boy. Okay, this is just beyond wicked. For this thing to be as small as it is, it's an incredible saw. I got the medium tooth on it, and I think you get different choices of it. And one thing to note about this, several of these companies that make these sheaths that have a pocket on them, most notably the Ontario sheaths, the Pocket Boy, you don't even have to, for those of you that don't sew, you don't have to modify anything. That thing will fit in there. Wait a minute. I think it fits in the other way. Yeah, it fits in better this way. Yeah, just like that. See? And there you have it. You don't even have to modify anything. The pocket on it, this is the Ontario RTAC 2. This is fantastic. You know, like I say, if you don't sew, you can carry a Pocket Boy, and that is a complete kit. You got your big knife, you got your saw, and if you want to, you can wear a neck knife, and you are good to go. Now, somebody had asked me one time, there was some confusion about the SOG saws, and I simply put, the only thing I can say about it is this is the older blade design. You can see it's got reasonably fine teeth. That's good for shelter building. I haven't seen this in years. What they're making now, you cannot do any kind of shelter craft or tool craft with this, because look at the teeth on this thing. Look how aggressive they are. The only thing that this saw, the new blade design, is good for is for firewood processing. You can see the difference in the teeth. I mean, this down here looks like alligator teeth. Firewood for processing. Moving on along, somebody asked me about bow saws, and I carry, this is a 12-inch. I haven't had a 12-inch very long. This is the one that I got recently. It's a very neat compact size. I like having it. I even got my own little sticker on it. And then this is the one that I've had for years. I think this may be a 24-inch. I've painted it over the years. The paint wore off, but that's pretty much the only one that I've ever had. Now let's move along to the final thing that I want to show you, and then I'll let you go. Now this is a great design for a bow saw, a breakdown fold-up bow saw. My friend Jim in Michigan made this for me, and I love it. It is fantastic. And the way it works here is you just unscrew these right here. You've got this. He's got it drilled on each end, and then he's got dowels in each end. Okay. And the way you do this is he has it, the blade is inside here, so that you simply fold these out. And it has a 24-inch blade in it. And you just fold these over. He's got each end slotted, and then the full length of it here is slotted, so that this thing will go over and it hides the blade. Okay. Now the way this jewel works is you put it out like that, and then this fits in here where the pegs are. Okay, just like that. And then he's got a rod made up right here, threaded rod, that you run through. If you want to make one of these, you'll just have to slow the video down a little bit to see how this is assembled. Ease you down here a little bit more. It's got a wing nut right here. And then you just simply tighten this thing up. That's all there is to it. I'll put these screws back on here so that they don't get lost. Now, I never did make one of these. I had one years and years and years ago out of welded aluminum or aluminium. I never made one out of wood, and he made me one, and I love it. It is a jewel. I love this thing. This is so cool, and he's even got my name in it. This thing is awesome. You can't beat a bow saw. So anyway, that's pretty much all I was going to cover, I think. Now I remember the one other thing, storage. If you have a machete that you're going to store away that's in a leather sheath, you can oil it if you want to, but another thing you can do is put some wax on it. Okay, if you wax up the blade real good, not only will it protect the blade, but as you put the blade in and out of the sheath, it'll actually soak into the leather and soften the leather. Okay. Another thing you can do is you can use a kind of a light oil, any kind of a light household oil. But the only thing about that is if you happen to have a Cordura sheath, it's going to make a mess if the liner is not properly made. And another thing you can do is the polish. You can polish a blade. The one thing I want to say is it doesn't matter if you use some kind of wax or some kind of oil, it's fine and dandy. Never, ever, ever, ever use WD-40 to store your blades. I don't know what it is about it. WD-40 is meant for loosening things up. It's not meant for preserving things. So basically, that's it. I hope I covered everything. I hope I don't get into too many arguments in the comment section over how I sharpen blades, but that's how I do it. You know, I was asked a bunch of times, and that's how I do it. But the basis for how I sharpen my blades is I don't let them get that dull to begin with. I let them, I maintain my edge. You know, when I get back and I'm putting all my gear up, part of putting the gear up is checking my knives and machetes and maintaining that edge. Okay, so I may have another. I think I got a couple more videos, kind of like along the Q&A thing. I got some stuff I want to show because I get asked about so often. So anyway, till then, always remember, nobody likes wet feet. Nobody likes a dull blade. And what was the third one? I can't remember the third one. I had thought about it all day. Yeah, bitter coffee. That was it. Nobody likes wet feet, nobody likes bitter coffee, and nobody likes a dull blade. So, Keep your blade sharp, and I will see you in the next one.